Streaming live again, this time with Lucia. Let's hope she joins us very soon. Some of you will see her face for the first time. I know her face. I've talked to her before, but not in English. Hi everyone. Lots of people. Hi Fer. Where are you, Fer? Okay, let me invite you. Where are you? Hi Lumi. Hi Leo. So good to see you guys in the
Hello.
How
are you?
Great. I'm very happy to see you and hear
Me
you.
too. Me too.
Yeah, because I've heard you before, I've seen you before, but not at the same time.
No, that's correct.
Okay, great. So this is Lucia. This is the face behind a very popular site. I think we're having connection problems. Maybe. Am I losing you? Do you guys hear me? Okay. I think I can invite her again, maybe. Okay, let's try it second time. No problem. This happens. This is live TV. It's only natural. So Fer, you're in New Zealand. This is so good. So far away. I'm speaking to a guy from New Zealand on Monday. So you can try with the accent. Okay. She's out. Do you guys hear me fine? I guess this yes and perfect is from the moment when I asked you. Okay. Let's hope she comes back. I don't want to stream alone. Okay. Let's keep our fingers crossed. A lot of people watching. Oh, here she is again. Let me try again. Utopia. Here you are. Okay. Wow, so many people I've seen before. Okay.
Hello
No,
again.
it's okay. It's okay. Connection problem. I thought you panicked and you left.
No. That didn't happen.
Okay, so tell us something about you, Lucia. We finally put a face to a very popular site. Very popular site.
Well, the funny thing is that I had already shown my face before on Instagram, but then I chickened out and I stopped showing my face. It was like 13,000 people. It's a lot of people.
Followers.
And I don't know what happened. It's just that I'm scared of showing my face.
Oh, you should.
Yes, I think that I'll get used to it and start showing my face again. But it's just like I only show my face when I have something very important to say, and when it's worth it. I mean, perhaps if not, I can write and the rest can read, and that's enough.
Which, by the way, you do a lot. You do a lot of writing and you have a lot of followers reading, right? A lot of people.
Yes, it's a lot. It's commitment. There are a lot of committed people. I mean, they are committed to the subject of education, and I think that I have a very big responsibility in terms of communicating, and that's why I have to be very careful on what I communicate, because lots of people are reading it. So it's a very big responsibility. So we need to be responsible.
Double thank you for accepting the invite.
You're welcome.
First,
Thank you.
like a list of questions for you. My co-host has been digging into your profile and they came up with a question.
Okay.
Question number one, why the name Utopía Educación? Why that name?
Okay. It all started when I graduated high school, and one of my friend's mother gave a speech, and well, she read a poem. It's not a poem, it's like an excerpt from Eduardo Galeano. In fact, it was something that Fernando Birri said, who was a filmmaker, And it goes like this. How was it? La utopía está ahí, camino y se aleja. And it is something that we need to think, of course, in terms of education, we need to think about the future to transform education, but we need to keep, we don't need to keep away from the present. And it's, at the beginning, it was something like we need to see the future, we need to pay attention to the future in order to build today's pedagogy. But now I kind of changed the idea that we cannot always see the future, but it is what keeps us walking, you know, that the objective, the aim.
Definitely.
And that it's something like, it's very deep, it's philosophical, in fact, but it's kind of my philosophy. I always look forward to the future, but taking into account the conditions of the present.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. Okay. Okay. And you started writing, or some of your writings go back to 2016. And my students want to know, if you had to write those first things again, how would it be different? What would you change?
I would change a lot of things. First of all, when I read those things, I feel like kind of embarrassed because I started my licenciatura back in 2017, and the first writings the first things I wrote were before attending the licenciatura. And I also have a site that I created on the last year of my teacher training college. And I read it and I say, oh my God, is that what I wrote? Did I write that? The ideas of education that I had, honestly, I mean, if I have to be honest, what changed my mind, my whole idea of education was the licenciatura I attended. It was a lot of information. And yes, definitely I would change the idea. First of all, the style, you know, that we are teachers of English and we pay attention to the style, the words we use, how we address to the topics, how sometimes we are very superficial when we write, and there are some things that I wrote that aren't specific, like specific names, specific pedagogies, or I was very superficial when I wrote. And now I think that I'm more technical. And the things that I write about, I started writing about technology in the classroom, and I wrote things that, I mean, at those times for me were new, but I understood that they are not so new. So I learned a lot.
Yeah, but that's very interesting, because sometimes when we study a lot, and there are some things that teachers that have not been able to study that much, they don't know that. So I think it's great to go back to the beginning, to the basics, to the essentials. I think that was probably one of the many secrets of your success, probably.
I don't know if I'd call it success. I don't know what it is to be successful. I mean, what my success is in the classroom. It's like, if I'm a good teacher, if I can benefit my students from the things that I know, if I can make them think outside the box, then it is that is what I call success. Not the followers came after my journey into being a good teacher. I don't know if I am a good teacher. I always tell my students that I don't know if I'm a good teacher.
What levels do you teach?
I teach middle school, and I also teach Fundamentos para la Enseñanza y el Aprendizaje del Inglés at the tertiary level. What? And this is my first year teaching that subject. And middle school, I have been teaching middle school since 2018. Then I was a first form teacher.
Oh, so nice. Well, I have questions about that. A big question. Many of my students, and I guess your followers too, are worried about assessment. And I know you're specializing in that. I know you are interested in that. You've studied a lot. You have very original ideas. So please enlighten us. Give us some ideas. What can we do in the classroom, in the regular classroom or online?
Oh, okay. First of all, and it's something that I heard Darío say in the previous meeting. It is that if we train our students to fill in the blanks, do not assess or something else. I mean, assessing is an important part in learning and teaching. It needs to be planned beforehand, and it should be agreed upon before. It is something that we need to negotiate. I mean, we have to be the criteria when we assess what we are going to take into account when we assess needs to be clear for them. It is not a surprise. The idea of the test as a surprise is old school. It's not relevant anymore. The thing that we need to tell them, when I took tests when I was back in 2017, because then the school left the tests aside and the formal test, let's say, and they started on a formative assessment. What I did was to show them the test. Like, this is going to be the test. It's this one. It's like, I don't want to be bad at you. I am not going to be evil. This is not going to be a surprise. And we also do like kind of mocks before.
Yeah, I love the mocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Me too. It shows that we are committed and that it is a true opportunity for our students to show what they learned. It's not a surprise. It isn't that.
I once read that the best exams are the exams that don't seem to be an exam. Like the task is realistic and the moment is like one more activity, one more day, right?
Exactly. If we have to take exams, if we have to plan an exam and in terms of formal testing, which sometimes it is necessary, international exams or schools that have it as a rule, we can make the change. It is not the same to make the test a surprise than just to negotiate it before, talk about it.
That's great. Right. And what do you think we should be doing online? Do you have some ideas for online assessment? And also, my students are worried about keeping the record of the things we do online for assessment.
That's very important. Well, I use Google Classroom, and in Google Classroom, you have, that every time that you create an assignment, a Google Drive folder opens somewhere else, and you have all the things that the students submitted saved there. So that's very important, that if you're not using a platform, I don't know of any other platform besides Google Classroom. I know that there's a Moodle. I don't know if they have the same function, but what I like about Google Classroom is that it doesn't matter if you return the assignment to them, it just keeps, you keep it in your account as well. So perhaps if they tell you that they have, everything is there in Google Classroom. What I also use are rubrics.
I saw you posted today about rubrics.
Yes, I did. As from this year, classrooms incorporated rubrics. The rubric, as it is not that you attach a rubric as a file or you attach it in the same assignment, but it's a function of Google Classroom. Okay, so you do them. You load all the criteria and all the descriptions of the criteria, and then what you have is on the right side of the page, you have the option to choose the score on each rubric, on each criteria.
And do you show your students the rubric beforehand so they learn, or afterwards?
Yes, I'm also a human being, and sometimes I don't show it to them before, but it's because I didn't have it ready. But in the process, when they are working on it, perhaps if I publish the assignment on Monday, then on Wednesday I send the rubric. I always send it before they submit. So perhaps I let them work before, and then I show them the rubric so that they can read it and compare it to the rubric that I uploaded. The ideal thing would be to have it at the beginning of the assignment with the instructions. I know that these times are very demanding for us, and sometimes we don't have things ready whenever we should have them. So that's the reality.
Can you give us an example of a specific assignment and the criteria you chose for that and the descriptions for those who have used the rubric?
Okay, for example, I teach language in third year, senior 3. It's a bilingual school in this example. And I tell them to write an opinion essay, okay? It is very basic. They just they give a claim, and then they have to choose 3 reasons to support the claim, and then the conclusion. It's a very basic structure to start writing, formal writing. And first of all, one of the criteria is the introduction, no? The name of the criteria, introduction. Then, if it included the 3 reasons in the introduction, if it shows, for example, the best score of that would be that they wrote an introductory sentence, they used connectors, and they mentioned the claim and the 3 reasons. That's for the introduction. Then the body, and in the body...
The other extreme of the criteria.
Oh, it would be that they, it is not a paragraph, first of all, that they just write one long sentence and they believe that it is a paragraph, when a paragraph is a set of sentences, a set of connected sentences, or they forget the introductory sentence and they start with a claim, which is not bad, but it's my criteria because I'm teaching them how to write properly, and that's what I like. And then, for example, within the body, I always take into account the connectors, the linking words that they use, the paragraph structure, that they start with the reason, then the support, and they give an example. And sometimes I focus. That's the basic thing about writing essays. Then, for example, last essay, I asked them to include some sensory detail. So they had to describe, it was why my bedroom is the best place, I do something of the sort. And they had to include a sensory detail, like, for example, because when I wake up with the sound of the coffee machine and whatever, they had to include that.
That's good. And do you have some feedback from your students after using rubrics for self-assessment and for your own assessment?
If I have some feedback from the students?
Do they like it? Is it confusing?
They do. But the thing is, they find it really useful when they have the chance to modify what they did. If you just give them the rubric right after they finished and just to grade them, grade the assignments, is not the same than to say, perhaps you have a first instance and a final copy instance. And then perhaps in the first instance, you don't give them the rubric if you did not have the time to do it. Then you give them the rubric and you allow them for the possibility to hand in again. They value that a lot.
Do you change the mark? Do you keep the same mark? How do you finally grade it?
Oh, I have a mark for the first draft that comes after the rubric, or it comes after the criteria that I added. And then the final mark, I always tend to make an average of the 2 marks. Sometimes it happens that when they changed everything and it was part of the process, I always change my criteria, but I let them know.
Okay,
that's the important thing. This last one, it depends on how the group does. For example, if they have, sometimes it happens that they do a very bad job at the beginning just for me to correct and to tell them what to do better. And then if they follow my advice and they get a 10, then I won't give them the 10 because they are lazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't like the numbers related to like quantifying learning it's awful, but we have to sometimes. So it's how to finally give them a mark from 1 to 10, right?
Exactly.
Someone said that you mentioned a lot of collaborative assessment, and do you think that should stay in online teaching, or should we go more to individual assessment?
Do you mean the fact that the groups, that if I give a mark to a group?
Yes, I think so. I think the question is like, should we assess students individually or in groups now online?
Oh, okay. I don't know. I always tend to provide different grouping instances within the process, so they have the chance to show that they learned individually and then in groups. And then what I do is to listen to my students when they tell me this person didn't work, because it happens. They write to you, they read to you in private, and they say this person didn't work. And when I contact that person, they say, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't work. So then we have a problem, and of course they can't have the same mark as the rest. So that's when we negotiate.
Interesting. I think it's good to do both individual in groups and also the assignment itself, and maybe something oral like an interview, so you can also see if the group talks about what they did, you can realize how much they are committed to the job.
Exactly. And now virtually what I'm doing is I first tried for them to present with the group, the whole group, in a meeting. We use Meet, but that didn't work because they started turning off their cameras. I mean, I don't force them to turn on the camera because I know that it's quite awkward to ask for that. But they started leaving, and I was like, how come? So then I uploaded a Padlet where they had to write comments on the presentation. Nobody did. So we had a next instance of presentations that was small groups, like individual with me. And well, sometimes you need to accept that this will keep happening. And I don't know, you're not there to see if they are listening, and it turns like tense because I am witnessing my students leaving or turning off the camera, and I can't do anything because they are already gone.
Okay. Do you think, I think sometimes I think that it happened in face-to-face classes, because the thing is that because they are physically there and they seem to be looking at you, it doesn't mean they really are. So
They turn off their
maybe,
brains.
yeah, they were like,
Yeah. Oh, that happens to me as well as a student. So I can't blame them. I mean, I have a very short attention span. It happens to me with movies. It happens to me wherever I go in the cinema. I'm counting the minutes for the movie to finish. I get distracted. I don't know. That's why perhaps I understand them sometimes.
no. I think that we are idealizing face-to-face education sometimes. Like, for example, there's this situation of practice students or the senior ones, but they can't do anything, and they say no because they're not going to be ready. You're not ready when you finish anyway. Nobody's ready after 4 years studying at college. You
No.
learn from experience and from all this sharing and dialogues, and not, the 4 years are just the beginning. So don't really matter that much if you miss a couple of months without going to school, right? That's my
Exactly. Hmm.
view.
Are you having problem with practice students?
Yeah, well, not personally, because I believe that practice is something different now. So we should observe and plan and do in a different context. But
Whatever
I
we have.
imagine, for example, at university, in professional, for example, nutrition, that they have to go to hospitals to do stuff. They're not doing anything, and they should, because it's nutritionists are working online, so that's practice now. That's the kind of practice we
Exactly.
have.
Hmm.
That's,
It is what
okay,
it is.
yeah. What is it? What you get? What are the biggest challenges teaching ELT in general? I think that at least my students are a little bit more interested. They do teach in bilingual schools sometimes, but mainly the subject where this live stream comes from would be teaching in high schools, like states high schools, public high schools. Do you have any idea? Challenges?
Well, first of all, trying to include content, relevant content in our classes. Comprehensive sex education is a challenge, for example. We have a lot of material, books that perhaps sometimes schools don't have the books. They usually have a library, and you need to take books from there. At least the experience that I have, I worked at Nacional de San Isidro, and even though here they are saying number of students in Buenos Aires, I had a class of 25, 28 students. Books were not enough. And those books were from 2005, 2006, and it loses relevance. I mean, they still have the comprehensive sex education problems, gender. They tend to assign a gender to the to workers, okay, and vocabulary. That happens to me. First of all, that books material to work with. Second, the different levels that we have in the class. It shouldn't be a problem, but it is. The real thing is that it is a problem because from my experience, you have the students that go to a language school. You have the students that don't know English at all, and they pass the years before, or they owe the subject from previous years, and that's also a problem. Here they are saying hidden curriculum. It's true. The things that we have to teach that are not in the curricula. A lot of behavior issues as well. Sometimes there's a stereotype of the teacher of English, which is the teacher that comes with the tape recorder.
Yeah, and the verb to be.
Exactly. And there's a lot of, at least in Buenos Aires, there are a lot of students or people that are teaching with a first certificate, for example. And that's a thing. I mean, you can start teaching with the first certificate, and if you keep training, keep studying, it's okay. But some people get stuck, and sometimes you have suplencias, you have the substitutions, but some other times you have the provisionales, and provisionales, they are there forever. And they don't have any pedagogical background, and they keep teaching grammar structures. They go and they make the mind map on the board, and the idea is to move the English teaching from that to start teaching content, and the excuse would be the content would be the excuse to teach grammar.
Okay. Do you have any? Let's rephrase. What would be the best experiences you have, the most meaningful experiences, the ones you're super proud of, or that you think your students learned a lot? Can you tell us some ideas? Inspire us.
Well, I created an account on iEarn. It is a website where you can get in contact with teachers from around the world. And I did 2 projects with that website. First of all, it was the teddy bear exchange. I don't know if you're familiar with the website. It's wonderful. No. We have a coordinator here. She was about to win the Nobel Prize for Teachers. I don't know. I don't agree that much with that prize, but Silvana Carnicero, it's her name. And Rosie Aguila. The 2 of them are coordinators in Argentina, and they help you with the process of getting in touch with teachers from around the world. And I met a teacher from Australia, and she sent us a koala bear, a teddy koala bear, and we sent her a penguin because we didn't know that much the national animal. It's like a llama, or we didn't find a fluffy toy of that. But our students made them, wrote letters. They described the penguin. They described the koala bear. The name of the website is iEarn, and the name of the project is Teddy Bear Exchange, or the Teddy Bear Project. And they came. I mean, I started the project, and then I left first form to teach secondary, and they kept doing it.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's
And
nice.
what are the language functions involved in that?
Oh,
What did you teach them?
description, first of all, to describe the toy, to
Mhm.
describe the koala, describe the penguin, to introduce themselves, because they also, within the parcel of the penguin, we sent letters. They
Oh,
introduced themselves. It was first form. And they also, well, can't, description, and also, what else? They chose the name for the penguin, and we voted. And we found out, we learned about Australia. Yes, and it is, um,
and
people
how did you
do.
do this? Did you bring authentic texts? Did you write your own fragments?
No, it was, we don't have a book. We didn't have a book. And we Googled information, and then we talked about it, and we registered everything in their notebooks.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
it was just talking about it, and then writing it on the board and making a summary of the things that we talked about, and then they wrote it down. There
So
was
this is
something else.
a kind of CLIL, right?
Yes, it is. Yes. And I really liked it. And even an article, a magazine was written after our experience.
Oh,
It was in the neighborhood, a city newspaper. It was a very small, independent publishing, but we were really happy because our picture was there as well.
okay, great. Okay. Now you mentioned Google Classroom, and well, I'm not a big fan of Google Classroom because it invades my drive.
Mm.
But why do you think that? Because some people like it. I prefer Edmodo, Schoology, but it's because my drive is so full. What would
Mm.
you recommend for Classroom? What are the because some people need a kind of place to collect stuff and work with students. Why would you
Of
recommend
course.
it?
Oh, first of all, because I have to be honest with this, I don't have another option to use, and I don't know any other. I don't know Edmodo. I don't know. There's Blended. Um, First of all, because it's free. I don't know about the other options. I'm just. This is a disclaimer. Um, it is very organized. You go to a part where you have all the list of pending things to correct. You keep everything in your drive. Perhaps it's full sometimes, and we need to create new email addresses to associate with Google Classroom. So it's very demanding in that sense. It is very simple. What I don't like is that it's not organized. It's not visually nice. I mean, you have the list of topics, and you don't have a preview um, of the task that you're assigning. What I do is to write the title of the assignment, to write the date first of all, because you can move, and you can accidentally move the activities from topic to topic. And I like to have them organized with the date, but then the title is not visible because it has the three dots with the extra information hidden. So that I'd say that it's a disadvantage. But I mean, you can include everything there. You can add links, you can add videos, you can add. What I like the most is to create a copy for all the students. You assign, for example, I create a table, like a table with dogs, and they have to complete it. And I choose the option that they can edit it, and we work collaboratively. And then if not, that document, I make a copy for each so that they are ready to work. And that copy has the name of the student and the name of the assignment.
Oh, good. Well, that seems to be good. Well, you can try. I really like Schoology and Edmodo because they're more like Facebook and so visually easy to use. Especially Edmodo, you can keep a record of the marks in one grid. You have all the students and all the marks. But yeah,
I'll
it's not
try.
like yeah. I like Moodle, but Moodle you need to pay for that. And when I have Moodle, you can put like I am like unit 1, 2, 3, or there is a kind of order sometimes. I hope my
Yes,
staff is not hearing.
I
But
use Moodle at
yeah.
the I use Moodle at the teacher training college, and I love it. But the thing is that the scroll to death If you don't have the
Yeah.
plugin of the expanding menu, then you have to scroll to death.
Yeah.
To
Indeed. Indeed. Okay. Can you give us some strategies or ideas for the very young ones?
Oh,
That you're teaching that subject, right?
yes, I'm teaching fundamentals. In fact, it's more than language acquisition, but the subject that I teach, but also I'm a methodology teacher. So what I would say, if you have the opportunity to have short Zoom sessions, it would be great. I know that this is not a possibility for everyone. I said it before, my sister works at a public kindergarten in my neighborhood, and families don't have the possibility to join a Zoom meeting. So if you have the possibility 2 or 3 times a week or to record short videos, perhaps there's a...
How do you organize the video for the young ones? Is
Oh,
it
with a
like
short song, first of all, something that they already know, and a lot of repetition, perhaps. If you teach them a song one day, don't forget that song. It's important that you keep mentioning that song to create like a routine, to start the video with the same song, so that they know what is going to happen and they expect that moment. And when you feel that they are ready to move on, you start teaching another song, not forgetting the previous one, but then letting it fade away, so that they have something to attach to. Then I heard good recommendations on good comments on Seesaw, which is like a social. It is more like Edmodo, but for little ones. And that's great too.
My sister lives in America, and that's what they use for kindergarten there. She was happy
Yeah.
as a mother to keep a track of her child, what she was doing. So yeah.
Okay, what I can do is, as I recognize that I am not teaching little ones in these hard times that we are living, I can recommend some accounts that where they are teaching, and you can follow them afterwards and ask questions. There's a teacher, I don't know if you follow her. Her name is Micaela Luna, Teacher Micaela or Teacher Micaela Luna, and she is having a section once a week on Teachers Help Teachers. And so she has a lot of information on how to go about teaching kindergarten. And so I really recommend those type of accounts who are teachers that are really teaching younger students.
Yes, I think that mainly this dialogue has to do with giving ideas now and to keep going. So the more ideas, the better. Definitely. You posted, let's see if I'm not forgetting. You posted something recently about break time, and my students are worried about mixing up because it's break time and study time and everything happens in the same place. So do you have some tips for relaxing,
Well, I was talking
revising?
to one of my colleagues from Instagram, and I was telling her, Pedagogía sin comillas, I was telling her just today that I don't have my own desk. I live in a very small apartment, and I don't have my own desk because I keep everything at school. So I had to bring everything from school to my house, and I am surrounded by papers and everything. What I try to do is to be very tidy. I know that it's sometimes hard, but I take 5 minutes before starting my lessons and 5 minutes after. It can be half an hour, of course it can, because we have a lot of things. And I start like expanding, I start like moving things, and all of a sudden I have the big table full of things, and I start piling up things. So this is my pile, this is my partner's pile, this is what I need for tomorrow. I always try to keep everything organized before starting a lesson, like my computer charts. I started inventing places at home to put my stuff. And I decided that, yes, because perhaps I have my own library, but with my books, my own bookshelf with my books, which do not relate to teaching. and I had to put all the books there. And what I'm very strict right now is I'm working at the same spot every day.
Okay.
This is my working spot. This is what my working place where I work. This is the place where I sit at the table and nowhere else. So that this is my concentration and focus time, which is this one that I have.
Okay. Well,
A picture.
Thank you for speaking from that place.
Yes, you have to be honored.
Yeah, I agree with that. So because if we mix up like starting from bed and sleeping, so it's like
Yes,
the
I
more
was using my couch to teach. I mean, I have a couch with a coffee table, and I did everything there. But then I kept resting, and I grabbed my computer and started typing and doing things. It's not right.
not right. I totally agree with you.
And also,
Okay.
sorry, one more thing: exercise and stretch your body. I know that it is very difficult, but I try at least once a week to go to my teacher, my Pilates teacher, and she goes live with a class, and I try to at least do the first 20 minutes.
Okay.
That
I do the
it's a
same.
game changer.
I have a Zumba class on Mondays.
That's great. Yeah.
Non-negotiable Mondays are activity Mondays. Okay.
Mhm.
More work. Where in Buenos Aires are you?
I'm in Zona Norte.
Okay, good. I'm
I
in
live
North
in
too.
San Isidro.
I
I live in
told
San
you.
Isidro, in the northern area, where things are very complicated. We comes Cava and then us. It is very complicated, but people keep going to walking in small groups.
Mm,
But well,
okay.
I live on the first floor, and my balcony. From my balcony, you can see the street. So I'm always like, I'm missing the robe, to do like this and be like an old lady looking. That's
Yeah, I'm not. Okay. Many people worried about relationship between students and teachers, the difference between relating face to face and relating online. Do you have any activities, any apps, anything that might bridge the gap?
okay. With my students at the Teacher Training College, we did something. We did an activity to try to find tips to reproduce a role in the classroom, in the face-to-face classroom to online teaching. And we arrived to lots of conclusions. First of all, don't forget that we are listeners as well as speakers and teach things and so on. So we need to take our time to at least 5 minutes before the class starts to ask them how they are doing. The other day I showed that I asked for how they are feeling with a picture of in the scale of dog. How are you feeling today? So they just have to tell me a number. Number 5 is a sleeping dog. Number 1 is a dog who's angry. Surprise. They're always sleepy, of course, but sometimes I have interesting things. Or perhaps a wheel, that there's a wheel going around that is a website that you can create your own wheel. You can ask questions there and pick a random student to ask to answer it. That's about the role of listeners. And you're not only a listener when you listen to your student, but also to give them activities related to asking for them to tell us what their favorite things are, what their interests are. So show them that we care about their own interests and how they are doing. Let's not forget that they are still learning things apart from the school. They are YouTubers. They watch videos. That's for listeners. Then, for as regards
Can you say the name of the wheel, the name of the app? Somebody's asking, what app
Wheel
is
of
that? The wheel.
Names, the Wheel of Names, it is called. Then I'm going to perhaps if you I can take notes and I share it
You should follow you and you
afterwards.
post it. Ask them to follow
Yes.
you and you post something.
Okay. Then we have the important role of learning facilitators.
Mhm.
I understand that the first 2 weeks, perhaps we were more focused on
Surviving.
surviving, yes. We were focused on, I couldn't have said it in a better way. Um, and now we have to be aware that we are still learning facilitators and that we need to care for our students who have special learning needs. Um, that we have students with dyslexia who still need for us to read them the text or to have the text in advance. We have different types of learning preferences. I'd like to say that instead of multiple intelligences, learning preferences. Our students learn in different ways, and we always need to tackle the main topic with different strategies, like for example a song, a video, an activity that involves doing. So that's very basic, but we don't have to forget that.
Variety matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Final message, because we are not reaching the hour yet, but I know that the end is always longer than expected. So what would be the big message for, I think most of the people watching here today are students, I'm pretty sure, and teachers, the young teachers that still want to learn how to teach. Now, the older ones may be tired. And so what is your big message for them, for not just ELT in general, but ELT in lockdown in particular?
Oh, to focus on the main abilities and not to be ambitious. I mean, we always have to be ambitious, but we don't have to feel guilty if we don't cover the syllabus. It's something that it happened to me at the beginning. I had wonderful projects thought for this year that I was very excited about, and I couldn't do anything mostly because it involved outings, it involved inviting people to talk, and it requires a whole new organization. And sometimes it is possible, sometimes it is not, but we are doing our best. And I think that we need to take that into account and to bear that in mind, that we are doing our best. And I always repeat that to myself every day when I feel guilty that I don't have the time to sit and correct, because I teach the whole day and then I have to sit on the computer to correct. And sometimes when we were not in lockdown, it was easy because perhaps you have an hour and you sit in the computer, but you were talking the whole day, you were walking through the class and breathing fresh air, and now you have to keep using the computer to correct. So let's leave the guilt aside.
Right. And you mentioned projects. Do you have experience working with project-based learning? Something you want to
Yes.
share with, apart from the teddy bear, that seems to be a project?
Oh, we did another one, and I will insist on the page website I earn, because all the teachers around the world are mostly in lockdown and they are in the same situation than us. I think that it's a great opportunity to contact teachers from around the world nowadays. Instagram is also another great resource for that. And when I was a teacher in fifth form, we did a project that was called One Day in the Life. We got in touch with a school in Taiwan, and they shared videos with us about one day in the life that they had. And that also involved learning about the country, the culture. They sent us a video on the fruits that they had, and they had different names for different fruits, like a grapefruit was not the same grapefruit that we know. But everything was different, and the cultural shock was great to witness, because my students didn't understand a thing of what they were seeing, and their students learn English in a very different way than us, because they learned from I think that is the translation method, that the teacher told them to say something and they said it without understanding what they were saying, and then they gradually understood. Something like that, very strange, but they talked in choir. Whenever they wanted to ask a question, the whole class of 50 students went, "What is your favorite?" And the teacher asked them to encourage them to repeat the phrase. It was different than what we do here in Argentina, but I really liked it. It was great.
How would you define your own personal teaching style?
Oh,
You had
resourceful, perhaps I'd say.
okay, why?
Um,
I love it. I
I'm
like that.
I'm very creative. It is not that I'm bragging about it, but
I wish you.
I would. I'm very creative and I'm a learner. I mean, I'm always learning. So I love learning and I learn, but I watch YouTube and I can learn anything from YouTube. I learned how to knit. I learned how to make coffee. I learned many things. And I try to inspire my students to do the same within
Right.
the subject that I teach. So I go to YouTube to find okay the realia that we know. One time there was one time that we were studying Second World War when I was a social studies teacher in sixth grade, and I brought my father is what we call here in Argentina radioaficionado,
Mhm.
and I brought a radio that belonged to the Second World War that he has to a class, and we had to describe it to figure out what it was because it was like a radio, like kind of a backpack with an antenna, big antenna. Um, so I like the surprise factor very much.
That's great. Okay. Okay, Lucia, thanks a lot for this. This means a lot to me. In fact, this is our class. Instead of the class, I said, why don't we talk to Lucia instead of having the class today? So
Thank you. Thank
after
you
this,
so much.
I went to see what they're all there watching, and this is great. So thanks a lot for the opportunity,
Thank you
and
for
let's keep.
inviting me.
Oh, come on. Okay. See you soon. All right.
Thank you. See you
Okay.
soon. Have a great day.
Same to you. Bye bye.
Bye.